Hello again, guys. We're back. A couple of days longer than usual. Just family stuff and personal stuff getting in the way, but it's better than Monday.
Well,
Uh,
it is holiday season, so a lot of things going on.
it is the holiday season. In fact, speaking of holiday season, Gray, um,
Hmm?
a little tiny plug. You know the Coca-Cola truck? Is that a thing in the States that goes round? You've heard the
I mean,
UK
as far
boys
as
talk about it, yeah?
you're talking about delivery?
No, so it goes. It's
No.
themed. It's just Coca-Cola and big lights all around it, and it looks amazing. And Santa Claus drives it, and he stops, and you get a tour of the back of the truck, and it's all Coca-Cola stuff, right? That was on
Never seen it.
Pepsi thing on Netflix. Pepsi, Where's My Jet, right? And
Yeah.
the Coca-Cola truck drives into the service station really quickly, the gas station, wherever. And the guy looks like he's in a rush, aka Santa Claus. He runs in, you think he's going for the John. He doesn't. He goes straight to the refrigerator to get a drink, runs back to the truck, and then starts drinking it. And he sees a camera that's clocked him, and he goes, oh shit, it was kind of Pepsi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, man.
I
Anyway,
think there was an old commercial years ago where Santa went up to a vending machine, and the choices were Coke and Pepsi, and he just goes like this for a second and goes, and he hits Pepsi.
yeah. That sounds about right. Their advertisements were nuts in back in the day.
Yeah.
We haven't even given you the title, and we're waffling already. Classic Gray and Trev form.
I know.
Anyway, yeah, today's episode is another Prodigy episode. It's season 1, episode 18, called Mindwalk. A little bit better than last week, but let's just hope the last 2 episodes are a nice finale. And I think without... Oh, wow. I'm not going to tell you what Gray gave you out of 10. I didn't give it that out of 10, but anyway.
Remember, I said I was being kind.
You were? Why
I
you being
wanted to be
kind? Because it's the holiday season.
I was being a little kind because there was a couple things I really did like about it, so I kind of made up for the things that I didn't like about it. I didn't give it a 10, that's for sure, but I did.
Yeah.
Now that the cat's out of the bag, I went with an 8, but again, a kind 8.
God damn it,
So-
Gray. I'm supposed to save that to the end. You ruined it. Everyone's going to tune off now and never watch again.
No,
No.
some of the better reviews are when the shows are terrible. Sometimes.
Yeah, well, actually, he's kind of right, actually. He's kind of right, because we usually get a lot of angry stuff to get out of the way. Right, anyway, so if we remember last week, they were in that Hollow Nightmare simulator thing for ages, and Hollow Janeway was corrupted and blah, blah, blah.
The Snorefest episode.
The Snorefest, yeah, but the end was good, and it leads on to...
Yes.
It leads on to the start, a continuation, if you like, and it's basically the Protostar up against the Dauntless. Like I said last week, on paper, the Dauntless... the Protostar wouldn't stand a chance in a firefight with the Dauntless, but it's faster. So we'll discover later on in this episode if its Proto Drive gets going, it sets off. So Proto Drive is better than Slipstream.
Yeah, but it's not by much. I guess in a
It's
race,
enough to get
it would
away,
put them a
but
little ahead.
yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, so this is the square off here. Hollow Janeway's kind of disgusted at this stage with what she's done, because she's a nice-natured person, as Janeway Mulgrew usually is, I guess. And the guys are on their own. They have to do this without Hollow Janeway. I'd love to see the start, Gray, where the Dauntless is just kind of comes in, slows right above the Protostar, and you get an idea of how massive it is compared to the Protostar. The Protostar's probably... I'll need one of these YouTube video comparison guys to do the size comparison thing. You know, the guys that have, like, they'll have car, then they'll have a jumbo jet, then they'll have... And it goes way up to like a Death Star in terms of scale. I think this will be bigger than a Defiant, but it's probably going to be smaller than, say, the Voyager, because that wasn't a massive starship. So
from the looks of it on the episode, it doesn't look to be more than maybe 25% as large as the Dauntless, maybe something like that.
They've been generous, actually.
I mean, I'm just saying the most, but that's still pretty small compared to the Dauntless. So.
Oh yeah, it's just huge. I don't like the Dauntless. It's ugly, especially when you see its belly, and
it's kind of got that same kind of disease that
It looks.
Enterprise D had, the fat part. Like
It looks like a
like
jellyfish. Kinda a little
yeah.
bit because it's
Yeah.
like the Voyager, but it doesn't go all the way back in terms of that bit at the front anyway.
I mean, I guess you can't have every starship look sleek because I guess they would look too much like each other. But on the other hand, I mean, I don't know. I could have thought a little better on that one. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
tends to like more of the sleeker lines as opposed just to the bulging things. I think that was a big reason why they went from Enterprise D to E. They went back to the sleek design instead of the fat boy design, as I call it. So instead of doing the bulk, I mean, the Enterprise D was a massive size ship. I mean, that thing's huge.
Huge, yeah. Like
Yeah,
mini
and it was meant to
starbase.
be an explorer. Of course, they all, I guess, are to a certain extent. But I mean, compared to the original 1701, it was like 3 times the size.
Oh yeah, it's massive.
I mean, geez. So, but even so, when the E came out, I mean, you gotta admit, the E, even much as I like the D, the E came out and it was just like it. I mean, hold my beer kind of thing. It's
So
just looking.
instead of
that looks good.
instead of sex on legs, it's sex on the cells. Because that
There you
thing
go.
was gorgeous. No, the Dauntless is the way it looks, and it's ugly because, and I've told you this before, although they've never confirmed it. I remember the Voyager episode really well, just not the title, where they got that slipstream machine, the ship that looked like a Dauntless Federation ship, and it was that nasty guy that wanted them all assimilated. They've just went, may as well copy that design. It was the Dauntless. It looks similar. Let's use it. No, let's not. Anyway, right, so we know the Protostar's tiny, really, in comparison to the Dauntless, so it's smash it up. At this stage here, where have I got? Sorry. Yeah, so the Dauntless is literally sitting right above the Protostar, like just blocking it out almost. And the Dauntless Doctor, I don't recall his name, the Tellurite guy, he can see them through the viewport. Now, I wish they would do this more in Star Trek. Have you looked out the bloody window? Sometimes it's the best way to see something. He's just sitting there having a drink of coffee and he looks in, he's like, what the hell? All these kids are waving back at him like, aye, whoops.
It's like the observation deck, right? Just kind of like, oh.
Yeah. Just sometimes you
I
look out the window.
I guess I'm glad they do that because sometimes you can't stick to total. What would be there? You can't break the laws of physics, but at the same time, you want to at least have it look aesthetically nice. So technically,
Unless you're Scotty.
if you can see through it, then of course, if you're going to fire phasers, you're going to aim at that because you're probably going to be more likely to break it or get a beam right through it. Somehow. But you can't do that because then the whole ship would just look like nothing but a block of steel. So you have to put the windows in. You got to put the lighting in. You got to put the,
there's windows on airplanes for a reason. I don't know why. You're going to see even less up there, but no. We always need windows in our starships. Keep them going, and it was a big, massive window.
Yep.
At this, when everyone's waving back, or everyone's in shock, they're not waving back. They're all like, "Oh." It just pans to Murph, and Murph just goes, and
yeah. So what? You're bigger. Doesn't matter. Well, he can do that. He can do that because he's indestructible.
He is. So what are you going to do? Phaser
me?
You
have to worry about.
You going to phaser me? It's fine. Yeah, he's sticking it to the man, Gray. I found that amusing. Sticks his tongue out. Doctor's horrified. Classic Murph. Love him. And thank you, Gray. Gray's either researched this or he has remembered it. He must have researched because there's no way you're getting that spelling off the bat.
Combination of both. I remembered it, but then I wanted to be sure. So
yeah, the bad ensign, as we've been both calling her for a little while, Insensia. Ensign Insensia. Say that 10 times really quickly when you're 10 pints down, right? Dare you?
Yes.
The Ensign Insensia stashes Vice Admiral Janeway in a cupboard. But got to get rid of the evidence somehow. Classic Splinter Cell maneuver there, the game back in the day. Great. Get rid of the evidence so no one sees.
That's right. Find a trash bin you can stick them in.
Exactly. And then she's got a good plan, to be fair. She's basically going to hide her, go back to the bridge and tell everyone not to bother or just do not disturb. She's got a bit of a sore head, leave her be. And then I note here that the Protostar then manages to jump to warp all by itself. Now, what I'm thinking at this stage of the episode, I was confused. Later on, I know why, because they're heading towards the middle of the Federation. and it's the construct's kind of taking more of a charge now. But at the time, I was like, "What? Did you get what was going on here, Gray? Did you click?"
No, I kind of it clicked with me from that and what they discussed before. When I learned that the construct could control the holograph Janeway, then I knew it was getting into the systems, which makes sense. It should have actually done it sooner, but whatever.
Should have done it sooner.
The other thing I'll make a note here too is that which got me was I'm going like, so it's red alert. They're chasing the ship down. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, this demands the attention of the captain, in this case, the admiral. I mean, this is what the situation calls for, right? But they're going to go up there and tell her she doesn't want to be disturbed. What?
Yeah, no,
I mean,
you would frown upon it and you go, what? But when Jamie's going a bit weird later on, which we'll cover, then they'll still follow her orders and say yes, ma'am, for a while because she is in charge.
Yeah, but it got to be comical, and it kind of sort of made sense. But at the beginning, they didn't know any of this, so they're just going like, "What? The admiral's just going to dive out of a situation that's dire right now?"
Yeah, yeah, true.
So I find that very weak. I mean, that was like a, they
would question it, but they would follow the orders. I think at least initially for a while, great, and then they'd be like,
I just thought they could have written something better than that. It just was too, again, a little easier way out. Just stick her in the cupboard. And for that matter, why would they stick her in a cupboard? Now, don't you think a captain, be that an admiral, right? Their quarters are going to have at least a walk-in closet. I mean, come on. But you're gonna stick her in a cupboard?
I mean, she deserves better, doesn't she? Really?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, just kind of, you could throw her into the walk-in closet. It's a little better.
They do need a better. Funny. They do need a better excuse, though, for sure. Like, she's out of commission. Yeah. They don't say why. Make up any reason, man. Come on. She had a bad curry from the replicators last night, and she's on the jaw, and she won't be back for a while. Just give people a reason.
You could have lied and said maybe she was injured and on her way to sick bay, something.
That's not going to work, mate. She's going to be limping along there for half an hour. Let's go down and give her a hand, get to sick bay.
Yeah, but I mean, that way they could have just sent somebody out to help her, maybe, or they would try to. But they just go, "Oh, she doesn't want to be disturbed."
You're looking for something, yeah, plausible.
It's kind of like the Romulans are attacking us. We're falling apart. But listen, I don't need to be disturbed right now. I mean, seriously.
Okay, fair enough. I like the next scene. I like things like this. I've got Gray never watched all of Star Trek Enterprise, so I don't know if he's seen this episode. In fact, I don't think he did because it was towards the end. The Dauntless pursues, and they're both going at warp at this stage. The proto drive, I don't know why it's not working. It's not, and merges. The two ships merge warp bubbles. Now we've seen this in Star Trek before. We've seen this in Star Trek Enterprise, where was it the last season? I like to think the best season I think of Enterprise, and then they bloody cancelled it. Typical. That episode. The engineer Trip from the Enterprise was actually off the Enterprise at the time. He was in the sister ship Columbia because his hot Vulcan girlfriend didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore, so he kind of left the ship to get away from her. And Jolene Blaylock was, oh my god, this is a family show. I won't say any more than that, but Jesus, hottest Vulcan ever existed. And he has to get away from her, but they come back together again because the Klingons sabotage some of the subroutines in the warp matrix, and it just starts slow. They have to keep going faster and faster. It's a great episode, great. They keep having to go faster and faster. They're actually way past warp 5 at this stage, and warp 5's its limit. And they have to, if they don't stop, they're going to burn out. But if they stop, the device blows up. It's a classic Speed, Keanu Reeves type movie, but in space. And then Trip literally goes from the Columbia, goes in underneath. Was it underneath or above? One of them. And then Columbia uses the same warp bubble. Enterprise uses Columbia's warp bubble. They have the same one, but Columbia can only hold the warp bubble for so long. And just as they have the one warp bubble, Enterprise reboots its matrix, and then job's a good one. But you see literally Trip crawling between the two starships on a big massive ladder because they don't like using teleporters at that stage. Transporters, sorry. Yeah. They don't like using them because of their infancy, so he's like, to hell with that. And I don't think you can, at that stage, transport at warp, certainly in the early days, so Literally up he goes. Cracking episode, Gray. I would recommend that. But I got vibes of this here because they literally managed to merge both warp bubbles. So literally the Dauntless can start firing on the protostar to take down its shields slowly but surely, but not destroy it because they don't get a hold of it, obviously. And our guys, Dal and Zero, this starts off well, and it gets a bit. I want Gray's opinion on this as well. Dal and Zero work together telepathically to try and connect to Janeway. I don't even know if it's Janeway at this stage. It's just anyone, but they happen to get on Janeway, Vice Admiral Janeway. And we've seen something similar on Star Trek before, Gray, where shit hits the fan as Dal's consciousness is going across to try and reach Janeway. A phaser shot, literally a big one, that hits the protostar, and for a split, briefest of split seconds, it creates a conduit through the whole bloody thing from the Dauntless to the protostar to Dal. So literally then his consciousness gets swapped into the body of Janeway and vice versa. And at this stage I'm thinking, oh no.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Disney.
Did you like that bit, or were you like, uh-oh?
Oh, I was right away. That's why when I saw it, I'm just going like, the old swap the bodies mind trick. It's like,
oh, wow.
I mean, I'm being a wee bit kind. I'm sitting there going like, all right, because it makes for something that actually was kind of neat in the episode. But it just sounds like it's just something that's used so much. I wish there was like another way they could have done that one. But in view of what they had going on, I guess they really didn't have a choice. It's sort of. So
yeah, no,
I'm letting them slide on this one.
Well,
this one.
When you give me 8 out of 10, I'd expect you would let them slide with that one.
Yeah.
So now they're both switched consciousnesses, and I'm really tongue tied this evening. I'm really sorry, people.
I don't even know what you call it. Consciouses.
Conscious times 2. Consciousness times 2. The spot minds, Caesar, and at this stage, they literally go to. I say this a lot. Janeway and Dal's body, so I can distinguish clearly what's what, right? Until Gray comes up with a better short acronym or nickname for that. And then literally they go, Dal, and no, this is not Dal, this is Vice Admiral Janeway. And then literally she stands like that, the way Kate Mulgrew does. Or Dal's doing this. And then you hear the little nod to the Voyager theme music. They can keep doing that, by the way. See the little musical nods? Keep doing it. I love that shit. Give me more of it. I love it. Did you like that, Gray?
It was pretty funny how he goes like this with his hands. They have like a camera shot that's a little bit more shooting upwards, so it looks like a Superman pose or something. And I'm Admiral Janeway. Like, yeah.
What are you talking about exactly? Did you like the musical notes there from Voyager?
Yeah.
God, love it. God, I love it, man. I absolutely adore
this
that.
This was a thing, and it. We'll talk a little more about it in a minute because I had a comment later on. But generally speaking, this music was a theme that popped up more than once in the episode.
Yes, like
here and there.
2 or 3 times. To be fair, I loved it.
Yeah.
At least twice that I counted. I loved that. So now Dal, right? Okay, Dal Janeway, Dal in Janeway's body, right? Just that's the short way I'm doing it. Dal Janeway is now acting weird, being in her body, and she kind of really is, because she escapes from the cupboard or wakes up. And then is like, looks in the mirror like, what the hell was going on? And listen, I was cringing a lot at this stage, but then I remembered it's a kid's show and it makes sense for the plot. But kudos to Kate Mulgrew, because I know she's an actor, but even still, that's still got to be a little bit cringy even for her to try and act like a kid. You're like,
and also I can't remember his name, but the voice of Dal, they both did a good job, because it's not easy to sit there and you have to change your mindset and say like, all right,
that was brilliant. He was all grown up and
But it's so hard for an actor to do that, a voice actor too, because you have to channel the other character, but you can't talk like the character. You got to keep your own voice. Yep. In other words, your character's voice, but act and talk as much like the other characters you can. So it's not really that easy.
Yeah, you know the Protostar crew are they're voiced by adults still, Gray. Just in case you thought they were kids.
I personally think, although I don't know because we haven't read anything about this, but Kate Mulgrew sounded like she was really enjoying this. She really was getting into acting like
She
this.
really
Like
was.
You could just tell. You could just tell from what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm going to take it as a positive rather than being too negative. But yeah, I was concerned about the cringe factor was a bit higher than usual. So Dal and Jamie's body at this stage is literally trying to get out of there, and walking past people in the corridors of the Dauntless, and they're like Admiral, and she's kind of hiding, and she's acting funny like a little kid would, but she's a Vice Admiral, probably in her 60s. So I'm having a chuckle at this. The Diviner goes back to properly tie her up, which I was like, are you kidding me? You never tied her up properly first time. You go back to clean up your bloody mess. Sorry, I'm warming up for a rant tomorrow about the whole Superman thing. Tune in for GGR if you want to hear that. So I'm warming up with my ranting skills. I'm like,
exactly.
Come on, Diviner, are you a noob? Like, you're supposed to be a bad guy. What? All three of you? None of you thought to properly tie her up? And yeah, they're right. Don't kill her. Like, normally you would kill someone like that off, wouldn't you? But they're like, no, Admiral's important. Keep her. You never know when you're going to use her. So he's horrified. She's on the loose. He's shitting himself that he's going to be outed. And he's got the free reign of the ship, I noticed as well. Whatever. And
he was walking around before that, so
true.
That's totally unbelievable.
But I don't know if this episode, but certainly at one point, I think he's on the bridge as well. Like, you're allowed to walk onto the bridge when you want. That happens a lot in Star Trek, though. You noticed that?
It's a 24-minute kid show. They gotta kind of assume things.
Oh, they've got to, yeah, true. But that's what we do in that Pigman. That's the whole point. I'm not going to apologise for that. Yeah. So at this stage here, Vice Admiral Janeway, with Dal's consciousness, is now beamed to the Dauntless Bridge, because she's trying to put off going to the bridge for a little bit, and she's trying to avoid them at all costs. And literally, antennas, as Janeway calls them later on.
Yeah, I know.
You can't get done. You get done for racism. You done that, man. The number one, like, just like beam her to the bloody bridge because she's up to no good. She sees the Dauntless fire on the Protostar, and she's kind of like, she orders the crew to stop firing on the Protostar. She keeps on making up excuses and fumbling her way through it, but she's like, like, number one's like, you told us to fire, like, was that our point? But yeah, but don't blow them up, but keep chasing them. But lots of ifs, buts and pans. Let's find out where they're going, and then she does this, and then the pew pew.
Like it's so easy. Just like, yeah, let's see where they're going, and then pew 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 pew.
I'm just thinking, Kate Mulgrew's having a bloody ball doing this. Imagine her. I guarantee you, right? Because they're actors doing voice parts. Maybe a voice actor does it differently, like one that does it natively, but an actor that does the voice part, they've got to use a lot of their actual body to do that. So I guarantee you, Kate Mulgrew's behind the microphone, like us going pew 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 pew.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm definitely. I mean, you do got to use your hands. You can't because you can't act per se.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to move and do something to get you into the mood, so to speak. Yeah,
you do. Great notes here. Dal was freaking out in Janeway's body, being pretty amusing, and that was the funnier part. And I think it's because when we'll get to when it goes to Janeway and Dal's body, because she's a Vice Admiral, she's an older lady, for want of a better phrase. She's more
kind of
clued on.
Kind of like a been there, done that.
Yeah. So I think it was harder for Kate Mulgrew to actually do this part, but she probably had a ball for sure. Janeway Dal. So Janeway and Dal's body, because it gets confusing, this is talking to Ensign and Sensia, because we now probably know her name now, while playing with a model of the USS Voyager, and it's bloody detailed. I love this, and the Voyager music comes on again, and because she's literally lying back, chilling out. Like, you don't expect a Vice Admiral with the legs up, like, come in, yeah, chilling out, playing with her little model. And then she starts speaking to the sensor. Did you like that little touch with the model? I want that model, mate.
Yeah.
I really want that model.
And this is something that's normal because in the cabins of captains of many starships, including Picard and all that, you see models of the ships that they commanded before, or ships of the Enterprise going back years.
Yeah.
Things like that. So they always have the best models.
Oh, they do.
You see the
man.
size of the sucker too? I mean, it was about this big, man.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. They're the XL ones. I mean, I've got some of them. We will do an episode on that, actually. That's going to be my idea. Because what you'll find is this finishes in 2 weeks past Thursday there. So we've got a bit of a time between that and when...
Is it 20 episodes?
Yes.
20,
yes, so
20?
2 more.
Right.
Yeah, well, no, we've got a little gap between the end of this and the start of Picard season 3. So we've got 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks. So we're doing specials and stuff then, so that give you an idea. At this stage here, after little models played about for a while, the Doctor comes in and the Telluride Doctor wants to run more scans on Vice Admiral Janeway, but at this point here, you don't see then between. You just the scene cuts and you see Vice Admiral Janeway literally push him back onto the bridge, like trying to get rid of him, and that's the bit where she goes, "Antennas, you're in charge. Leave me alone,"
right.
basically. And and they're all looking like she goes back at the turbo lift, and the camera pans back with the whole bridge crew looking back dumbfounded. I thought that was brilliant. They've done a good job.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
They did. She did say that right at the end. Antennas, you're in charge. Don't forget, teamwork makes the dream work. And then they're like, "Oh."
That was a great line. They're just sitting there like, "Huh?"
Yeah, and she's still a lot of finger pointing in the wagon. I love this. So I did miss it out. Gray does mention here the Dauntless will contact Starfleet to get additional ships to the Protostar's end destination, that's a good point, Gray, because I did miss that part out. I don't know why they order this or they do this, because yes, at this stage the work at the Protostar's going right for the middle of the Federation. Basically, let's assume Earth. You don't see it at this stage, but let's assume it's Earth. Why would you want more starships for one little tiny what?
Well, first of all,
it's not a Borg ship, man. It's a Borg fleet.
I don't think there's any problem with calling to have additional ships on the other end to make sure the Protostar doesn't get away. But the thing that's weird about it is he goes, "I'm going to call every ship in the area." And like,
every single
why
one.
do you need every ship in the area? You're going to bring 25, 30, 40 ships there. Give me a break. You'd only need maybe 3.
I'm telling you, Gray, Starfleet's carbon footprint is going through the roof at this stage. I'm telling you, mate.
Really?
So yeah, no.
Can you just see it? Can you just see an admiral on the other end of the conversation? We need you to send just about every ship you got because we're bringing the Protostar, and the other admiral's going, "What are you, nuts?" I said, "I'll give you 3 ships. Don't tell me what else you need."
Don't tell me what to do. I'm an admiral. But yeah, no, that's a good point, Gray. I did miss that out there. So they're probably going to have got an Armada facing them at this stage here. Now, Janeway and Dal's body, right? Because this is it goes. There was a lot of the other scene in the Dauntless. We go back to more mature Janeway at this stage. She goes down to she knows all this stuff off the back of her hands. Like, even though she's not commanding the ship, she's in the captain's chair and she pushes a couple of buttons like she'd been working there for ages. It opens the trap door, for the want of a better phrase, down to the lower level where the
construct.
That's it. Thank you, Greg. The construct's hiding out, and Janeway's locked herself in there. Like, lock yourself up right beside the main weapon on the ship and the thing that screws you up. Well done, Holo Janeway. But she's sulking, a hologram sulking, and she's kind of feeling bad for herself. But as soon as they see each other and they start talking to each other, again, Voyager theme music. I love that. Gray notices that. What did you put here? What's the Harmon using the real music, not a sound like? I'm
assuming, although I don't know this to be true, that it has to be something to do with copyright.
No, it's not. They own it.
But I was going to say, but I can't go with that one because because usually when they change music up, it's because of that. There's something. Now remember, there was a lot of weird things in the history of Trek when it started out way back on Desilu Studios. That's another whole history lesson I'll give you later. and all the way through the history, because there are some very weird things that there that there is contracts for that they can't do. And it's really strange. And I'll give you a for instance, okay? The design of the Enterprise 1701, right? When they went from the Enterprise of the original series to the refit, they actually had to make sure per contract that certain things in the design had to be certain ways. They weren't allowed to change and or alter a certain percentage of the ship when they went to make the new one. This
The
is
new one?
all documented and legal.
What new one?
Okay, when they went from the 1701 original to the refit to the other refits,
Right.
if you want to call
Right.
it that, including the one that you saw in Star Trek Discovery second season, and including the one that you see in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
There's an ongoing contract that goes back God knows how many years that basically states that when you change the Enterprise, you design the Enterprise, you can only do it by a certain percentage. And you cannot go any further than that. I believe, and I could
Unless
be
it's the
wrong,
Kelvin verse.
that this was something that was set by Roddenberry long ago. That the Enterprise, if it's ever changed, can only do this, this, this. So there is a precedent for this. Now, music changes 99.9% of the time is usually because of something screwy with the copyright. So unless that's the reason, and I would think it's not, or at least you and I think it's not, unless it really is, then why would you not use the real music? You don't really need to alter it or make it sound closer to the original than even what they had. I know we're nitpicking, but I would love to have heard like practically the 100% theme going or sections of it going. I think it would have made that much more of an emotional impact.
I don't think. Yes, I agree with you. I want to hear the original music, and it's all its greatness. I agreed. I think they can do it.
You know what? I'll give you another
to.
for instance. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'll give you a good example. Remember back on Lower Decks when they did the one episode where they revisited Deep Space Nine?
Mm-hmm.
They used the exact Deep Space Nine music.
Because they were at Deep Space Nine.
Right, but my point is that, so why would you not do that in this show with Voyager?
Yeah, I did want them to do it great. I just don't think. I think for the most part they want to have subtle nods. I think that's why they do it. It's frustrating. Okay. I want to hear the original. I think, it's my opinion, I think that's why they do it. So
okay, then I'll play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
When you see other Star Trek shows where they made nods to the original,
mm-hmm.
all they had to do is go dun dun dun. That was it.
That's a tiny
That's all
bit.
they had. That's all I had to do because that was so iconic. You identified with it.
Yeah.
So there are sections of the Voyager music that they could have played only whatever 2, 3, 4 seconds worth that would have had the same impact.
Agreed.
Instead of having to make a sound alike, as I call it. It's still good. I still loved it, but I'm nitpicking. But if they had made it more towards the actual theme music, it would have been way more effective.
Okay, when I nitpick, you can't complain then.
Okay.
I would love to hear the original music as well. Yes, agreed. I'll take what I can get at this stage. Real Janeway in Dal's body rebuilds, literally reboots Hollow Janeway. Literally, the IT thing. I work in IT support. Turn it off and turn it back on again. What's she done? Purge the files at the same time, clear the cache and all that stuff. So what you do, and then she's back to her golden cell. But as she's doing that, Hollow Janeway gets the flashbacks of how it all happened, construct getting put on, her program getting messed with, that kind of thing. But now we've got Hollow Janeway back on the case. Hollow Janeway didn't believe initially that it was Vice Admiral Janeway Dell's body. She went, prove it. After what happened to her, and they talked about a scene with her father back in the day, blah, blah. She went, oh, it is you. I literally like talking to her, and it was actually a nice scene. I enjoyed it.
But by the way, we should point out, and even I forgot to mention it, when she, Hollow Janeway, was getting the memory returns of Janeway, all of a sudden, it came upon the whole thing with Chakotay.
Oh,
and what happened. And the two of them, the Hollow Janeway and the real Janeway, are all like, oh, and they're looking, going like, because they're kind of...
They look like sick teenagers at one point. They were kind of... They looked like lovesick teenagers when they saw Chakotay. It's like their loved one was gone.
Yeah, kind of. Well,
which annoys me.
That would make sense, though.
No, it doesn't. Yep. They had one scene, that one episode, that we're stuck in the planet. This could work. Oh, it can't work because of...
But wait a second. It was their crew for 5 years or whatever. So you're gonna remember and have fond memories of your crew.
No, but it looked like more than fond memories. It looked like here's someone that I fancy, that I love. That's why I thought.
I know. I see what you're saying. But the funny thing is, it was a good scene only respects that they both were just all of a sudden, boom, remembering like, oh, and what happened. And they both were remembering things that maybe they didn't really remember clearly before. And so that whole mystery out there is because she even asked, I forget whether it was real Janeway or the hollow Janeway, but one of them asks, is he? And they go, no, thinking like, is he dead?
Yeah.
And they go, no, but we don't really know.
He's in the future.
What happened. So assuming that like you said, we only have the 2 episodes left. There's gonna be a hell of a lot of wrapping up to do if they're gonna end this time or this particular story arc. I don't know.
They would have had more time if they hadn't waffled in last week's episode.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So now I just hope these next 2 episodes don't make it rushed because that's going to be worse.
They'll be flying through
they'll just tie everything up. Yeah, they'll tie everything up like really quick and just go, okay,
we're done. Especially the thing in America with the commercials and the adverts, especially there where they're trying to squeeze as much into the one ad as they can, and at the end of like subject to episode, and they just fly through the rest of the plot in like an episode or 2.
Disclaimer. At the very end of the next 2 episodes, I'm going to put disclaimer. This is a kids show.
Yeah, so don't complain, Greg Trevor, is what they'll say. They've got a cool plan. They're trying to reenact what happened initially with the mind swap here. That makes sense. Go back to the source. They're going to. The plan is Janeway and Dal's body has got to exit the starship, exit the protostar, make her way to the middle of the ship, and then try and make contact with her real body when the phasers are fired again. Hopefully that's the plan. And then they'll reverse the exact same thing that led them to where they are in the first place. I mean, Gray's got a little, I don't know, is that a small rant or a point here? Just like the movies couldn't have thought of anything else. What, the reversal or the whole mind swap?
The whole thing would you have to have the bodies there. They have to touch.
Of course, you've got to
reverse.
It's science. What caused the thing in the first place? Let's try and reverse that. That's logic, no?
I was trying to think if there was like a different way they could have done it or something a little more novel or an offshoot of instead of just doing the same thing. They got to touch. Okay.
You want to tell us about the charades point you put here, Gray? What was it?
Yeah, no, I see. Now that was one. There was a couple points in the episode where I thought the writing was good. I really do, and this is one of them. And they were trying to figure out how they're going to communicate because if they do communicate the normal ways, it's going to infect the ship and destroy it or whatever. So they can't let that happen. So they're going like, how are we going to do this? I mean, and then all of a sudden they just Janeway and Dal's body, comes up with the idea. Okay, we have a little game that we play on our planet called charades, and I'm going like, okay, now that's a good idea. I like that.
And they were like,
and it made sense. It made sense for a kid's show too. It doesn't hurt, right? So they're all sitting there acting out until they could all guess and everything, and then finally when they guess it all, they're like, yeah, all right. But I thought that was good. Now that was good. That was a nice little twist.
Kids have no clue what charades is, though, unfortunately. So we just found out. Why did you put a capital C for charades? I'm confused.
It's the name of the game.
So is that okay?
The name of the game is charades, so it's a proper name.
It gets a capital letter. Okay.
It's a C, yeah.
Maybe it's
learn your English, man.
Hey, I have to learn my. Don't get me started missing a U out in every bloody word. Anyway, that's a rant for another time and a whole different podcast, I think. Yes, so we do like the charades thing going on here, but unfortunately, it's the kids. The kids don't have a bloody clue what it is, so it's not going to work. But at this stage, she's a bit hesitant. Vice Admiral Janeway and Dal's body because they're asking her to do quite a lot. You just don't push her around admirals like this. But she says, whatever. She says, I was once transformed into a salamander. Nothing could be as difficult as that. And Gray came along with the episode Threshold Voyager Season 2, Episode 15. We won't even get into a rant about that episode because Gray dislikes it and I like it. Although not maybe a salamander part, that was a bit daft. But the Warp 10 thing was fascinating. Yeah. They just missed out.
I think the second half of that episode just started going
down the pan. Yes, I agree, mate.
And then at the end when they got changed into these salamanders or whatever. I'm like, oh,
So
no, I don't think so.
this is why you can't go to warp 10, people. That's why that's infinite maximum for that mode of transport, because you turn into a salamander.
That's
So
right,
don't go to
man.
warp 10.
Salamander.
It is possible. I do love it. It is possible. It's theoretically possible. They've proven it's possible, but it's just not practical. So yeah, they're going to do swap. They're going to reverse everything. At this stage, Dal and Janeway's body is forcefully taken to sickbay, even though she knows that the plan is that she's going to meet them there. But she's taken away. You think, oh God, here we go. Plan's not going to go through. Just as the Protostar crew are getting ready, she tells Gwen that Dal will never be allowed. They're having a little heart chart. I like this here. Janeway tells Gwen. Janeway and Dal's body tells Gwen that Dal will never be allowed into Starfleet because he's an augment. Now, what's it you put here, Gray? This is... Yeah. See, when she's saying this point, she looks devastated to be saying this, and she maybe doesn't partially agree with it, but it is a canon thing. It is, and we see that go back to Strange New Worlds.
Janeway mentions eugenics wars.
Yeah,
which goes back to Khan.
Go to watch Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. The very last episode of the first season. Una is the number one. She's augment. And I don't know if she was like augment in the original series, but she certainly is in this, and she's carted away because hopefully they'll pull some strings here, but it is true they don't allow it because of the eugenic wars. So again, I think they'll pull some strings, Gray. I think, to be fair,
I think with her, well, we're gonna find out. We're ahead of ourselves as far as Strange New Worlds goes, but they're gonna have to handle that very carefully because otherwise they could end up really messing up the fact that they're not allowed. So there's got,
for
but
good
we'll
reason.
see when the season 2 comes out.
I agree with that rule, not law, by the way, because
I think it's fine. I think it's a good rule.
You shouldn't be allowed. I mean, there's Dr. Julian Bashir as well, although it's slightly different with him, but still, all these brainy people that have been tinkered with, are not welcome. Au naturel in the Federation. So yeah, it's unfortunate for Dal. Now, this bit here surprised me. The diviner lets Dal, that's in Janeway's body, go just as you think he's actually, because she's locked up at this stage, you think she's actually going to get karate chopped or something worse, like by the diviner. He's going to end her,
like last time.
Offer and do a proper job this time. That's what I thought, because she escaped, and he's surprised that she's not surprised to see him, but he doesn't know what's going on at this stage. So Dal and Jamie's body's not saying a hell of a lot. And lets her go because she saved his life initially. So he's returning the favour. So there's a little bit of humanity to him. And he regrets. Right. He says, listen, I don't want to have to do what I'm going to have to do, but I've no choice because of I have to save my species. So
people, right.
You get a tiny bit of sympathy back from Gray, but he's still a nasty piece of work at the end of the day. And you get a little point here about the diviner you wanted to mention regarding the body swap.
No, I was saying that at first, the first inclination is that why doesn't he know that the body swap happened? And that's really because he wasn't around for all that stuff happening. Mm-hmm. So he really didn't have much of an idea. But if you watched at the end when Dal and Janeway's body, said that he said keep diviner should keep my daughter safe if this doesn't go right for me.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden Dal and Janeway's body looks at the diviner and says, yeah, I would do anything for Gwen too. And then there's a look on the diviner's face kind of like, huh?
What?
So now he's getting the inkling that something was a little, how did you know this? Why do you say it like that? So I don't know whether that gets any bearing into the next show or, episodes or whatever, but it was interesting.
Yeah, there should be a couple, definitely. Not Janeway, that'd be creepy. Dal and Gwen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're kind of getting close towards the end of the episode. At this stage, Dal Janeway, Gray's put in here just to make things clear. Janeway and Dal's body then heads to the middle of the Dauntless, right, to meet herself. Sounds weird when you say it like that, but it kind of is, to meet herself or himself. Yeah, it's great notes here. I like that. Now, I know here, I thought the hum of the warp drive was really, really soothing. And you can get these things, like, I'm not going to say its full name because I'll set it off for everyone that's listening. Alex, yeah. If you talk to Alex, your AI, put an A in the end of that. Greg, you can figure out what I'm talking about. No, you confused?
Alex and what? I lost you on there.
Alex, and then put the letter A in the end of it, but don't say it. Just think it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to set them all off. So you get lots of routines. You can get her to do lots of things. You can go, Alex, play the warp core routine, and people make these up. And literally, what it'll do is it'll play background music of it's the Star Trek Next Generation warp drive humming, like not like fast, like the slow when it's stationary, and it's so soothing. And maybe tell me, people, if I'm going nuts or I'm losing the plot, but I thought that was definitely nice white noise to go to sleep with. It was actually a nice noise to hear. Now, you would say you shouldn't be able to hear noises in space, and that is correct, but we're allowed to hear this. No, the warp bubble doesn't have oxygen inside it, and that's what you need. You need a gas to...
This is just a little tiny science fact or whatever.
Here we go.
The fact is that sound will travel in space. It just doesn't travel very well. So there is precedent to. It was a whole article written about it. It's pretty interesting. In order to hear a sound traveled in space, like let's say you and I are trying to talk to each other, we're in space, which ain't gonna happen. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it can. I literally would have to be really close to you to be able to even hear something. But it is possible to hear something. But you would have to be so close that the sound couldn't travel that far. Within the context of space, it would only travel like this far or whatever. So it's not worth. Basically, it doesn't travel, but it does. Technically, it will travel, but very, very slightly. So that's the real fact right there, that it does.
Okay.
But that's,
and you'll never hear it.
technical.
You'll never hear it because you can't be in space with a naked ear to hear it. That's your problem.
Exactly. However, because sound does create sound waves, you would feel it. So if something happened, an explosion went off, and you're gonna feel something. You're not gonna hear it.
Yeah, you feel it. Yeah, if it's loud enough, you can feel it because it's a wave.
And the weird thing about that is, imagine how scary that is, because you could literally be in space, or whatever, and you see the explosion, and you're gonna be dead when the sound wave hits you. So you got like a few seconds to sit there and go like, "Damn, dead." Boom. Then it hits you and you're done.
So Gray thinks there's sound in space, but we don't have a naked ear to hear it. So it's a bit like Schrodinger's cat, or whatever his name was. Is it alive if it's dead if you can't see it? Who cares is basically the answer to that question. So yeah, anyway, the sound of the warp core is very soothing, and the hum of it, I really enjoyed that. But Janeway Dal is on the wrong side of the bloody ship, typical. So needs to make her way to the right side of the ship.
You notice in that scene, like how far he had to walk?
Oh yeah,
it was a long way.
Yeah, you were almost literally the opposite end of the bloody ship. And
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, now wait.
Good storytelling.
If she had to walk that far, that's going to take way longer than the episode makes it happen.
Really fast magnetic boots, maybe? I don't know. Like bit of NOS in there or something. I don't know.
Well, we're letting that one slide too.
Yeah, we are letting that. We're both letting that slide, yeah. At this stage here, Murph, the legend that he is, now, Gray knows what this is. Stretch Armstrong. Was a popular toy back in the 90s, I'd like to say. Is it? All right, okay. Stretch Armstrong, very popular. If you don't know what he is, he's a little toy that you can literally pull within an inch of his life. And he'll, like Fantastic, what's his name? Fantastic Four.
Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic, yeah,
Four.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Like him. Yeah, like him. And he's using himself as like I don't know, a piece of rope, if you like. He keeps stretching himself longer and longer.
Like a tether.
Tether, yeah, that's a better word for it. Cheers, Gray. To let Dal and Janeway's body get as close to his hard counterpart as possible. But of course, just as they're about to touch, E.T. style, the bloody Dauntless's tractor beam comes on. Here we go, we're using a tractor beam on a person on the same season again. It just isn't feasible to me, even if you turn the settings way, way down. But for the second time in Prodigy, they're tractoring a human being and ripped apart again. They can't touch. So then, at this stage here, Janeway and Dal's body, right, so we don't get confused, asks Murph to stretch as much as he can, and little Murph gives it all he can. He really does. He's busted. He literally is blown out of his backside, man, trying his best. He's at maximum, but it's not quite enough. Of course it's not. So at this stage here, we've got Janeway. This was a great idea. Janeway and Dal's body, because she's a smart cookie. She comes from a science background, Janeway. You got to remember that. So she knows these things. She uses a phaser in the lowest setting, but as she pulls it out to like point it at her counterpart, you just see Dal and Jamie's body go, no, don't shoot me, man, don't shoot me, because she doesn't have a clue what's going on. But Dal and Jamie's body, no, Janeway and Dal's body, that gets confusing. Knows what she's doing. It's to try and make that same connection again. So she literally says this will sting a bit, sorry, puts it to minimum setting, fires on herself, and then that causes that connection, and then you get the whole swapper of the mind scene coming back and the memories coming across and blah blah blah. It was kind of smart. It was nice thinking. It was Janeway being a smart science person and thinking up something like this. Gray, you know here, it wasn't bad writing the phaser, but there's a big but.
The butt was, and I went back and looked at the scene a second time to see if I was nuts or not. Then she never mentions lowering it to the lowest level.
Really?
And she never physically does it either.
What the?
So basically, she just grabs the phaser and shoots. So essentially, they should have both been fried.
Because phasers by default are on stun setting. But then that person, our counterparts should have passed out.
True, but then would stun... I'm only nitpicking, but would stun be enough?
Yes. Yeah, you just have to bridge that connection, man. You just have to bridge it. But
all right, I'll go with that.
Phaser on default setting, stun. But stun should then knock you out.
Okay, true.
Dal and Jamie's body was not knocked out.
True. So see there, now you brought up, you proved my point, to be wrong, and then made your point, which is still now wrong for the writing.
Shut up! Leave it alone. God damn it, man.
So yeah, there you go.
There we go. So yeah, they do manage to switch their minds back. But I think just before this, at one point, Dal and Janeway and Dal body says,
I love this.
Says
this whole episode like
Janeway and Dal and Janeway's body says, I'll try my best for you kids, basically. She said something along those lines. I will try and make this work when I get back, just before she does the swapping thing. So she's on their side, but she needs to get back, and as she gets back onto the ship, the protostar with the Dauntless just behind it drop out of warp, and the whole bloody fleet's there. Anyone who thought a Borg cube had turned up, man, it's a little crappy protostar. And the whole fleet's there. There's a mixture of all kinds of ships. But before we talk about the ships really briefly, it impacts to Vice Admiral Janeway. She's in the brig. Grey notes
even
here.
Dal said that too. They were saying,
screwed.
That means we'll be. And he goes,
yeah, we're screwed.
And you see her in the brig. It was a cool ending, because now they ended the same way they did the prior episode, where they ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And now we got to figure out, all right, so now what's going to happen now, especially since we only have 2 episodes. So
we had
stuff has got to wrap up.
We had Voyager music at the end. See when it finishes, great. It's not like Marvel. It's got post-credit scenes. I don't watch the credits, so I never heard the music. So there was more Voyager type music in the credits. Yeah.
To be honest, I would have missed it, except that I was letting it run while I was doing something, and all of a sudden I'm going hey, wait a minute. And then I started noticing that not only did they make it sound alike, now they started adding in some of the drums. Do you remember in the Voyager thing where they go bum 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 with the drums? You hear the same exact drums going off. Yes, the notes weren't exact. They weren't exact, but it was there, so you knew. And it was just you don't hear anything of the Prodigy theme. It was all this
good. I'll take that.
Sounded like Voyager thing throughout the whole...
Prodigy theme tune is not the worst I've ever heard. It's actually not bad. It's okay.
No, it's not bad at all.
It's not like Star Trek Enterprise or... it sounds like a Star Trek theme music. So, but yeah, the more important part...
Star Trek Enterprise's theme, please.
Is the ships that we see at the
end.
It's
the worst theme in the world.
The ships that we see at the end, Gray. I really enjoyed that. I try to look briefly at what ships I could see. I got a bit lazy and I was like, yeah, I see a Sovereign class, and
To be honest, as I looked at, I froze the screen so I could sit there and look at it. And to be honest, the majority of the ships were Sovereign class.
Were they? No, I saw a few.
Yeah, there was a lot of them. There was a lot of them, and I think they just did that just for effect. They didn't.
It
really
makes
get
sense.
into,
You want more of your more powerful ship, I think.
Sovereign class is pretty powerful.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you make more of your top line ships rather than your little crappy ships.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it was mostly Sovereign class, like the E. And then there was some looked like Akira class, and
that's on Akira, yeah.
Maybe a Galaxy class. I'm not real sure.
It's hard to see when animation when it's straight on.
Yeah, because they're just throwing them up there just for the effect. I don't think they're really going for. I would like to have them gone for clarity, so we could have just went. Oh, look, there's a. You know, but they didn't. That's cool.
Yeah.
That was also something in Picard season 1, I think, or when Riker called the fleet to come in, and you see, all the ships pop in.
Oh, you mean the copy paste, the control? Yeah,
exactly.
They literally went control C and control P.
And that's exactly the way it was in this one. I'm sitting there going, "You lazy, you know what? You did it again." Now there was a guy that both Trev and I kind of know on YouTube that he likes to go back and recreate in 4K a lot of stuff on Star
Trek.
Visual. Neon Visual, and he did that scene. He remade that scene in Picard, but this time he put all the ships that more naturally would have shown up instead of the copy and paste thing. Wow, did he do a good job? I mean, he had Sovereign class, he had Defiant class, he had, I think there was Galaxy class in there. There were shuttles. There were like all this stuff was popping up. Akira class, and it was all just what would have happened. And if you really want to see something nice, go to his thing. We'll try to put it in the notes below. But and that one little clip was very short, but it was really good.
You find it for me, Gray. I'll put it in. You find it for me after this. I'll put it in the notes there. No, it was nice to see. Gray gives this an 8 out of 10. I give probably a 7, a bit lower. Yeah, I give a lot of those 7s.
I really was thinking on a hard time to do the 7.
You could give them 0.5s. You do that sometimes. Yeah, 8,
yeah, I was even thinking of that too. But I was kind of like, well, there was really good stuff. It ended on a cool cliffhanger. I'm gonna be nice this time and go with an 8. But I guess if I had to rethink it, I would probably do 7.5 or something.
Gray's not been a Scrooge for Christmas. He's been more positive thinking. That's what I like to hear.
I guess it's gonna matter to them.
Hey, they'll be watching, man.
That's right.
Yeah. So better than last week. Let's hope the I don't know if they'll show 90 to 20 back to back. I don't think they will. I think they are separate episodes. That would be great if there was a double ender there, but we will be back for them, of course, and then we'll have like 5-6 weeks in between where we'll do some more specials and ideas we've got, because it'll be a bit quieter. But yeah, no, cheers for tuning in, people. Cheers for coming along, Gray. We'll do the usual call to arms. You don't even need to like it. You can dislike it if you want, but a cheeky little subscription is always appreciated, and a comment is always appreciated below. If you want to see more ideas for that 5 and 6 week window, let us know. I should literally copy that like a GIF, what Gray does there, and use that for the thumbs up animations that people do in YouTube videos. Genius. But yeah, no. If you don't want to watch us, of course, you can always listen to us and wherever you get your podcast from. And we're on Twitter at The Trekway as well. Gray's GGR, Gray's Green Room, which is entertainment, includes a little bit of science fiction and Star Trek from time to time. We're doing that tomorrow. That's at Gray's Green Room on Twitter, on the YouTubes, and on where you get your podcast from. We'll be ranting about the whole Superman thing and Henry Cavill tomorrow. Tune in for that.
Oh, we'll be ranting.
It'll be a rant and a half. And, of course, don't forget our gaming side of things. If you like a bit of gaming, you'll find us at Extreme PC UK's Discord, and if you go to their website, extremepcuk.co.uk, there is a Discord link in there, and we'll get an entertainment channel in there where we can talk about Star Trek and all kinds of things like that. But yeah, that is us until episode 19. Thanks again, people, and until next time, do your thing, Gray.
Cheers, guys.
Bye bye.